The following program is intended for mature audiences.
You're going to win more often than not if you bet on stupid.
Draw to Biner. Ernest Biner. Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my!
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
The absolute worst!
Oh, geez, guys, kick the ball around a little more, why don't you? Sorry.
What are you watching now?
Indians, Red Sox.
Oh.
We've taken the first two of a four-game series, and they're up to one in the third in this one. So speaking of sports and stuff.
Speaking of sports, I did have something baseball-y to bring up.
All right.
If the Major League Baseball season ended today, Seattle currently has 72 wins, and they would miss the AL playoffs. The Chicago Cubs have the best record in the National League with 71 wins.
Yep.
The entirety of the American League, including a team that is not making the playoffs, would make the playoffs in the National League.
The NL is just not as good this year. The AL West, especially with the A's coming on like they did. I mean, they cut fire about a month and a half ago. And I don't think I've watched this many Oakland A's games in the last 10 years combined as I have in the past couple of weeks, just because they're fun.
You didn't.
They were coming back from behind every night, and I watched one night, and they were down, I think, 11-3, and came back and won. So I started watching them. But Zach's right. Yeah, the Mariners would miss the playoffs, and they'd be the number one seed in the National League as it stands right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess you can't even say to their credit, because I would say, hey, Seattle gets to pick on some of the American League teams, like, you know, in their own division, the Angels, the Rangers. I don't know how many games they had to play against Baltimore or Kansas City. But then you say the same about the Cubs, where it's like, well, they play in a division with the Reds. Yeah. And this is also Reds, a league with the Padres and the Marlins.
In defense of the Cubs, and I can't believe I'm about to do this, the Reds have no pitching, but they can hit the cover off the ball.
Yeah.
So they're not an easy out, but it's just one of those things. It's like what happens in the NFL once in a while, where we get the 7-9 division winner. Yeah, it's just the way it is this year, you know.
Yeah.
Or
about it.
Basketball every year.
I just yeah, right.
Strangely enough, actually, as I'm looking at the records, so like all the American League playoff teams would be above all the, you know, in the Mariners would all be above all the NL playoff teams, but the American League also has the bottom three teams in terms of record.
Well, you got the 37-90 Baltimore Orioles,
who were officially eliminated from the playoffs.
It's on August.
Fuck you, Orioles.
Yeah,
that's
Kansas
bad.
City could be eliminated tonight if they lose.
Well, I think it was a few weeks back we were talking about the old adage: you win 54, lose 54. It's what you do with 54 in the middle. I don't think Baltimore's getting to 54 this year.
Oh,
let's see. They played 127, so they have what's that?
They
like
have to
35
win
to go.
17 games.
They have to go 17 and 18 the rest of the way. That ain't happening. That's just simply not going to. That's like a game below 500. They're not good enough to do that.
What's the worst record of all time is 120 losses?
Yeah, the old Cleveland Spiders. No, they went 20 and 100 and something. I don't remember the number. Maybe.
Well, didn't the Tigers break that record a few years ago?
Oh, did they?
Like not. Hold on. Most losses MLB. I thought that's what
I just always automatically assume any record associated with losing belongs to Cleveland and just go from there. You're usually not wrong.
That's the worst. Okay, yeah, the Cleveland Spiders went 20 and 134.
Yeah.
Oh.
In 1899.
Yeah, that doesn't.
But
really
in the modern era, you have 36 and 117 by the Philadelphia A's. The 2003 Tigers went 43 and 119.
Oh my, that's wow.
See, these are by winning percentage. So the Tigers had the second most losses of all time in the modern era since 1900.
They missed the 54 games by 11. Man, that's bad.
The 2003 Tigers 43 and 19 or 119, and the 62 Mets 40 and 120.
Weren't the Tigers in the World Series just a couple of years after that though? Because they lost to the Giants in one of those series, I think. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because they were, let me see, World Series.
Pretty good turnaround.
AL pennant, 2006. Yeah.
Yeah, so
they went from one of the worst teams of all time to AL champion.
Pretty quickly, too. Well, speaking of sports and stuff, how much preseason football have we all watched? Be honest. Don't lie.
I've watched a few games.
I've watched a little bit. My problem, watching the preseason for the Rams has been useless because they haven't played their starters in either of the two games so far.
None of the starters?
No.
Wow.
I think there's only. Well, I think they might have played one regular guy in either of the first two, but Gurley hasn't played. Jared Goff hasn't played. The wide receivers haven't played. The starting defense hasn't played.
Wow.
Aaron Donald's still not signed. So it's kind of like they're taking a bit of a gamble in not playing these guys.
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
I trust in Sean McVay. He hasn't steered me wrong quite yet. So
yeah, I that's unusual. I mean that could. Well, I think it'll be okay. I don't think that it's going to hurt anything, especially with Gurley. You just spent all that money on him. You really don't want to risk having him blow out a knee in a preseason game. I wouldn't let him play at all till the regular season. For me.
Right, and that's his philosophy is that the only with those guys that that can perform, and especially they already know the offense,
right?
So there's not a whole really on both sides of the ball for the Rams. There's not a whole lot of new guys. I mean, yeah, there's some guys on the defense that maybe could be worked in, but even the guys that they brought in, they're veterans. And it's a long season, and if you expect to be playing for another month, 2 months, after the season.
Right. Why would you put Goff or Gurley out there, especially when you're a team that's probably a Super Bowl contender this year? Why risk it? I'm okay with that philosophy.
Why injure Todd Gurley in August if you expect him to be useful in January?
Yep. I've watched my Cleveland Browns 2 games now, and I know I'm going to sound crazy, but they're going to be better this year, a lot better. I don't mean playoff contender better, but
they gotta be better.
But they're
speaking.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that because as I've watched them and I've studied them a little bit and kind of went back and looked over the past few seasons, their biggest issue has been depth. They didn't have any. And even though they went 0-16 last year, they were in a lot of games, and now they've got some depth. And I've been calling for Hugh Jackson to be fired, but after reading about him and watching Hard Knocks, I think that he deserves a shot with a real team. And I think the first year he's had a real legitimate roster to work with. Not Super Bowl caliber, certainly not playoff caliber, but an NFL roster that's got some depth with some players on it. I want to see what he can do because they've looked a lot better.
Hard Knocks has been fascinating to me this season because you can clearly see, especially in the first episode when they're having some of those board meetings, that's a team that just we suck. Mm-hmm. And we know we lost every single goddamn game last year. So we're going to try anything to make ourselves better. Whether it's the guys we're bringing in, stuff we're going to try and practice, stuff we're going to try in the games. If it sounds unconventional, they're open to it just because, I mean, they literally can't be any worse than they were a year ago.
No, and I don't think they will be.
You can't lose negative games, so what the hell? Try stuff.
I tell you this, too. Tyrod Taylor, I like. I think he's better than people give him credit for.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback.
Yeah,
I don't know what Buffalo's problem was last year, honestly.
Well, Nathan Peterman, obviously.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah,
that poor bastard. They brought him into the game against the Browns the other night. The first thing they bring up were those 5 interceptions in the first half. First thing out of their mouth.
That's going to be the thing that you mentioned for the rest of his career.
Unless he wins a couple Super Bowls, yeah, that's it.
And I mean, not to brag, but it was against my Los Angeles Chargers, just saying.
Yeah, well, it was just funny. It's Nathan Peterman, you remember him from last year. He threw 5 interceptions in the first half. It's damn, don't even let the guy get warmed up. Just
I do like the factoid that was dropped that the only quarterback to throw more picks in his debut ended up becoming a punter. So yeah, like that whole thing was just bizarre. Like afterwards, Buffalo's coach being like, "I don't regret the decision. I regret the result." Like, what was Buffalo's problem with Tyrod Taylor? Like that they absolutely had to get Nathan Peterman out there. Like, really?
I don't
know, man.
It makes no sense, especially when you get to know him as a player and as a person. The guy's a good leader. He's really smart. And you go, what were they thinking? But and I didn't pay much attention to when Josh Allen played for the Bills, but I'm kind of glad the Browns didn't draft him just after kind of watching him play a little bit. Now, granted, it's just the preseason, and you can't really gather anything. All I know about the Browns is that they're going to have better depth this year. Now, whether that translates to more wins or not is anybody's guess, but at least they've got that going for them now.
Yeah. I like that group of wide receivers they've got.
Yeah.
Actually. Like, they'll be able to throw.
I almost wish, though, that they would have just signed Des Bryant. Cause, I mean, Josh Gordon's a great talent, but let's go screw around with this guy. Come on. You know?
I'm still kind of shocked that the Cowboys let Bryant go. To be perfectly honest, I figured like he's the kind of guy who Jerry Jones loves. Like,
well, if they would let that dude,
it's not like he was bad.
No,
like,
who's that?
He was making a lot of money, but
who was that defensive player they had that was like? They signed. What's his name? Greg Harvey? Is that right? No.
Yeah.
That dude was a criminal basically, but he could play. And it's like because at first you think, well, maybe Des Bryant's just got character issues, but he doesn't have character issues like that. I don't know why they cut him loose. Maybe it was a money thing. Who knows? But the Browns, it looked like the Browns were going to sign him, but then I haven't seen Hard Knocks this week, so I don't know what happened. But
I mean, I haven't even heard news if he has or not.
He didn't. As far as of right now, they didn't sign him. They brought him in for meetings and stuff, but they didn't take him because Josh Gordon's coming back. But anyway.
Yeah, but again, why do you even bother with that? I don't know.
Well, because if he can play and he stays out of trouble, he's a great receiver. But that was like 5 years ago too. Right, he had his great season. So I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking.
I know, and it's not like Hugh Jackson's been there the whole time he's even been there.
No.
So I don't know what loyalty he feels to Josh Gordon to like keep waiting for him.
They see that season he had in 2013, and they think, boy, if we could get that. But I don't know any NFL players that you can expect to play in 5 years later like they did 5 years ago.
Yeah, Des Bryant's had better seasons than that since 2013.
Yeah, well. I don't know. I don't know what the fascination is, but that's what they're doing. So we'll see. I know speaking of Ohio football, the group of
before we move off the NFL for a second, have you seen these hitting penalties that we've had in the preseason?
I saw them.
A few of them, yeah.
That's going to be a disaster.
I don't know.
It's going to be a disaster.
The main thing they're calling is the leading with the head, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
I don't. The tackles that have been called for that, like they realize that the head is at the top of the body, right? And that if you're going forward and you bend down to make a shoulder tackle,
right,
your head is still going to be ahead of everything else.
That's exactly the point I was going to bring up. How do you tackle with your shoulder without leading with your head?
Yeah, your shoulder, fun fact, attached to your head.
Yeah.
By the neck. So I mean, you got to like turn your head and not see where you're going,
or raise pull your head back, and I don't know. It's
what you're taught when you're making form tackles is keep your head up and finish the tackle, but don't lead with your head, but you keep your head up to see where the hell you're going.
Right.
If you turn your head to save yourself or whatever, you're kind of exposing your neck, so you're leading yourself into a stick like that, or you're going to miss the dude. And so some of these tackles, like perfect form tackles, getting flagged because it's a point of emphasis in the offseason, as we always hear every preseason.
It's a point of how about, just as a kind of just a new idea maybe the NFL wants to try out, point of emphasis. How about just stop making the rule book complicated beyond belief? How about we have that as a point of emphasis?
I agree completely. And
just 1 year. Just for the novelty of the idea.
And I think that any good NFL official can tell the difference between what do they call it, spearing, where like you're really just going in with your head to hurt somebody, and a clean tackle. And to make a rule that basically is going to make those two things indistinguishable is stupid. And it's going to happen.
Like,
it's going to start. First off, we're going to see a lot of dumb penalties. That's where it's going to begin. I promise you, by the end of the season, that dumb rule is going to cost somebody a playoff spot. Wait and see. Mark my words. It will happen.
If they're calling it like they are in the preseason and the regular season, definitely.
Yep.
But as we've seen before, they do this stupid thing where they call these penalties in the preseason, everyone complains about it, and then they back off of it when the regular season comes around.
I hope that's the case because this one is so dumb that I don't even know how you enforce it.
Oh, sure. I hope that's the case too, but I don't know. What kind of confidence can you have in your officials or how the game is being called if that's the pattern you're going to put out there every single year?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know.
And the catch rule has been modified again this year, so I don't know.
Oh, good.
If we've simplified it or made it even more complicated.
You have to make a rugby move.
Yeah. You have to make a rugby move, and you have to type out a paragraph explaining what just happened.
Yeah.
I don't know why, if it's that difficult, do what I've been saying all along. When you've got a questionable catch, get everybody together. You all watch the replay. There's 7 of you, right, or 6? How many of your officials are there in the game? 7? 6?
2 sideline.
I think 7. I think
6.
the total 7.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, you have a vote, and if the majority says it's a catch, it's a catch. Or if the majority says it's not, it's not. There's your solution. That solves it. End of story. Instead of trying to, make a football move or a blah, 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 this or that or the other thing, let's just leave it up to opinion.
What I was saying is that, with these new hitting rules, right, like the entire thing is fucked because there is no real way. It's too subjective.
Exactly.
The last thing that the NFL needs is more subjective rules, and this whole catch thing goes right along with that. It's just not what this league needs.
No. I agree completely. And it's going to end up screwing a whole bunch of people before it's if they keep with it the way they have so far, which I'm tending to go along with what Zach said and think they probably won't. But if they do, somebody's going to get screwed. And it's just like the Cowboys. Well, I don't care. I'm still going to contend that the Dez Bryant thing against the Packers was not a catch, but it would be now, but it wasn't then. But anyway, like the Cowboys did against the Packers when they got screwed out of that play. But people forget, though, that they weren't going in for the go-ahead score. It would have tied it or something, but that's beside the point. Anyway.
The last little thing, and then we can move on. I just wanted to make note that the Chargers' first home preseason game was on the other night.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they're still using the camera angles where they pan up just enough to not see the crowd. So that's still in play this season.
Do we have any idea what the attendance was?
I can look it up. It didn't look great.
Yeah, I know. It probably was preseason, so I'm not going to knock them too much for that, but still. I bet you they would have gotten more in San Diego. Just saying.
I mean, it's going to be hilarious when the team that can't sell out a soccer stadium tries to sell out an actual football stadium.
Well, yeah.
And they're paying the Rams rent money to do so.
Yeah. I can't wait for this year's first Battle of LA when I can post after the Rams beat the Chargers, pay your rent.
So is the first so in what stadium is this game going to be in? Is it going to be in the StubHub?
Coliseum.
Oh, damn it. I wanted to see what that game would look like in StubHub.
Me too, man. Why is this not coming up? Anyway.
Because Dean Spandos has declared that information won't get out.
Right.
This game does not get released. Okay, here we go. Seahawks. Gimme. Where is?
They might. You know what? Mike's right. They might not even release it. I don't know.
No. I'm so tired of these banner ads.
Hey, how is Josh Darnold doing? While we're just
Sam Darnold?
Or Sam? What did I say? Sam Darnold. How's he doing?
He's taking the majority of the first team reps in practice.
Okay. Does he look good?
He's looked
pay
great.
Close attention to him.
In his first game, he looked great. And then in the second game, it was a little, not as hot. But I blame that on the rest of the offense. They kept having to settle for field goals.
In terms of QBs, Johnny Manziel not lighting the Montreal Alouettes on fire.
No. Can't imagine.
This game doesn't list the attendance; it just lists the capacity of the stadium.
Okay.
They're not letting that information out. The NFL's not going to let itself get humiliated like that.
Even if there weren't 27,000 people, they're going to say there's 27,000 people.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, what was this thing too? I saw, while we're on the NFL, I might as well just get the whole potpourri thing going here. What was the Admiral talking about on the boards about the Redskins and basically prostituting their cheerleaders? Did anybody see anything about that?
Oh, that was a thing over the offseason. I mean, there was a big story that kind of circulated in, I want to say, May.
I thought I'd heard something about it, but it kind of just died out. And
yeah, I think most of the teams saw the backlash from it and kind of handled it internally.
Okay. Of course it was the Redskins because of course it was. You can see Dan Snyder as being the type of guy that would do something like that. I mean, maybe he had nothing to do with it. I'm not saying he did.
It was the Redskins. It was the Panthers were involved. The Bills were involved.
Oh.
The Saints were involved.
Oh, geez.
Those are the ones that were specifically named that I remember. I think even the Bengals might have been in there too.
Now, see, the Bengals doesn't shock me.
No, but I guarantee you that however they were doing it, the Bengals did it poorly and incorrectly. God. I got to ask again, how in the, talk about Hugh Jackson, okay, but you can make a case almost for him to still have a job. How in the hell does Marvin Lewis still have a job? I will never understand that.
I found it hilarious after, I found it hilarious after last season where it was like, he's not getting fired, he's just leaving. And it's like, all right, fine, whatever, as long as he's gone. And then like a day later, it's like, nope, he's going to be the coach, never mind.
They must be paying him like $8.50 an hour or something. He's just got to be dirt cheap is all I can figure.
Either that or he's got pictures of Mike Brown somewhere doing something, but
something pretty bad.
Pictures of Mike Brown. He probably has pictures of Paul Brown.
Oh God.
That's how deep this goes.
Right.
I don't want to watch the game highlights of Chargers Seahawks.
Oh, come on.
Why?
Come on. Come on, Zach.
I don't know why finding this information is like
they're your Los Angeles Chargers. They're fighting for LA for you.
They're fighting for Costa Mesa and Carson. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Little League World Series is going on again, huh?
Oh, I didn't know. By the way, StubHub Center is now called Rock It Field at StubHub Center.
Oh, brother.
Rock It Field. Really?
Capital O, capital R, capital O, capital K, lowercase I, capital T.
And that is what?
Yeah. What is Rocket?
Beats me, man.
Hard to keep track.
So now I'm looking at the official National Football League game summary.
Guys, how have we gone this far into the show and not talked about the WNBA playoffs? What the hell's the matter with us?
Is that happening?
Yes, apparently.
Is the dream beating the
nightmare?
I was trying to think of some other abstract concept. What else do they have in there? They have Sky, Dream.
Yeah, they have the Sky, Dream. I'm pretty sure. I want to say there's a team called the Flight. That seems like it would be like.
They have the Mystics, don't they?
I did see a story. I did see a story where the Las Vegas Aces, because of some sort of their flight got canceled, they were not going to make their game in time in Washington, and they're in like the heat of the playoff race or whatever.
Oh, the heat of that WNBA playoffs.
Yeah. Well, the game got canceled because they were only going to get in for a 7:00 game. The plane was only going to land at 4:00, and they had no time. They couldn't find a day to reschedule it to, so they just had to cancel it.
Oh, man.
The WNBA. Yeah. Well, no, never mind. Playoffs canceled.
Jeez.
Well, it wasn't the playoffs. It was like a regular season game that was going to determine who made the playoffs. Or something.
I was scrolling down the ESPN's homepage here, and like I got to pretty much towards the bottom, and there it says WNBA playoffs, which I didn't know they.
So
I didn't know anything about them.
Yeah, aren't they like best of 3?
Yeah, something like that. It doesn't take long, which I guess is good.
Yeah. Let's get this out of here quickly. Yeah, even the official National Football League game summary, like the one that they would hand out to officials and reporters in the stadium, has nothing else about
the attendance. Yeah, they're probably, like Mike said, they're going to keep that quiet.
At least in preseason. I think they have to report it in the regular season.
Well, I don't think we're going to be surprised. I mean, what's their road schedule their home schedule this year? Are they going to get teams?
I can pull it up.
We're going to get. I mean, every team's.
Well, they're going to get the Raiders every year, which is always fun.
Yeah, they got the Raiders.
There's the regular season schedule. Come on, I don't care about your preseason.
Got it.
Kansas City, San Francisco, Oakland. Oh, good. The Oakland game is earlier in the season this year, so it might matter. Although there weren't a whole ton of there were some Raider fans, but they weren't like flooding the stadium for the Rams Raiders preseason game. But it's also preseason. Titans.
They're at the Rams in week 3.
Denver. Well, yeah, they're at the Rams.
Yeah, I was just bringing that up. I thought that seemed like, I don't know why it would make any difference, but it seems like you should play that later in the year.
Cincinnati, Baltimore. The big ones are the divisional rivals and the Niners. The Niners will be a big one.
Yeah, that place is going to be a sea of red when the Niners come in, especially now that people think the Niners are going to be good with Jimmy Garoppolo.
The Niners one, that's going to be in Kansas City. The Chiefs fans travel well, so
yeah.
Hey, should I go to week 6?
Divisional games will be good.
Should I go to week 6 when the LA Chargers come to Cleveland? Go to the game, do a special report.
Gonna get you out of your seat. Well, since we got back around to the Browns, I'd forgotten. We haven't had a chance to talk about the victory fridges.
Oh yeah.
What now?
I sent this in our group chat a little while back.
You didn't hear about this, Mike?
Bud Light has teamed up with the
right. Okay, yes. Okay, yeah.
There are giant free refrigerators painted in Cleveland Browns colors, filled with Bud Light at 10 different Cleveland bars, and they are all locked.
With a chain around them. Yeah, they're completely bolted up. Yep.
But they will all automatically open the instant the Browns win their first game this season.
Yeah, they've got some sort of
the gear inside will be free for all Browns fans in the bar.
Because free alcohol and cheap alcohol in Cleveland sporting events has always worked out really, really well. Always.
Yeah.
You go back to like beer night in '74 when I think they almost burnt down the stadium. But yeah.
Or that one time where they pelted the officials with beer.
Well, you know what? I'm usually not for that stuff, but that is one case where the fans, they were right. They got so screwed in that game, but I am sorry. But $31, I can go see the Chargers and the Browns play right now, without even knowing their records. Only $31.
So we've done this once before, but we didn't know too much about the Browns before. But now that we're 2 weeks into the preseason, we've seen them a little bit of Hard Knocks. Let's go through the Browns schedule real quick. And see when Cleveland fans
drink for
free get their free beer.
You know what? I hate to say this because I've actually I've got a little bit of a I'm kind of developing a little bit of a crush on my Browns again here.
I saw on
Gregory,
Facebook
why do you do this to why do you put yourself through this?
I don't know.
I was going to comment on you said something like, hey, my Browns don't look too bad. I was going to say, Greg, wait, your Browns?
I know. I will be honest, though, in all seriousness, this is the first season they don't feel like a different, they don't feel like the original Browns, but they don't seem like some imposter this year for some reason, if that makes any sense. It's like I guess it took like 19 years to get used to them. I don't know.
Do you hear the mental gymnastics you're putting yourself through?
Yeah, I know.
It's great. It's the Browns.
Yeah, but I grew up with the Browns, man.
I know, but
I can say the same thing. It's the Maple Leafs. Come on. But
the Maple Leafs never went winless in a season.
And
that's impossible in hockey.
and the Maple Leafs didn't leave and get resurrected as the Maple Leafs.
Yes.
And that
it is still the Maple Leafs, at least.
Well, anyway, I'm more interested in my Browns than I normally am, and like I said, I've never not been a fan of the new Browns. It's just never been the same to me.
Let's see. Week 1, Pittsburgh at Cleveland.
No, we're still paying for beer after week 1.
Week 2, Cleveland at New Orleans.
No, we're still buying the beer.
Yeah.
Week 3, New York Jets at Cleveland Browns.
Okay, see, this is where I gotta step in. This is where I gotta step in for Greg's sake and, intervene. Last season, we all said that the Jets would be a barely functional team and the Browns maybe had a shot to be decent. And then it turned out to be the exact opposite. So that's why I said what I said, Greg, because it's like, I'm not giving the Browns a benefit of the doubt. I did this last year. I believed in them last.
By the way, this is a Thursday night game.
Oh, God, you've got to throw everything out with that.
Thursday night prime time under the lights of the Factory of Sadness.
This is going to be the debut of the Browns color rush. Oh, wait, we don't have to do color rush anymore, right?
You don't have to.
All right.
Okay. I want to know who said we need higher ratings for Thursday night football. Let's put the Jets and Browns on.
Well, historically, Mike, that is a rematch of the very first Monday Night Football game, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm throwing some factors into this. Okay, first off, what would be the worst possible time for Cleveland to be allowed to drink free? Not a Sunday afternoon, probably a Thursday night, I think.
Thursday night.
No, that's true. That is
8:20 local start, so the game will get out at 12 or whatever.
Uh-huh. So yeah, they're already going to be pretty lubed up at that point. So
and then you got to go to work because Friday.
Not Friday. If the Browns win a game, nobody's going to work.
So I'm going to say, based on a variety of factors here, first off, that it's Thursday night football, so you never know what the hell's going to happen. Secondly, a Sunday crowd getting free beer at 4 o'clock, not nearly as bad as a Thursday crowd getting free beer at 11:30 at night. Cleveland being Cleveland, they're going to win that game. It's going to be on a Thursday night, and there's going to be riots and all sorts of problems. So
everyone's going to get free beer, and the city will be in anarchy.
They're already going to be drunker than shit, and then they're going to open those free beer things up and look out below. So yeah, I think that's the game to do it at.
Okay, so I got to so follow up question: is there actually a riot that Thursday when the Browns win?
Probably. Maybe a mini one. I don't know if you'll have a citywide one or anything, but there will be trouble.
How many LeBron jerseys will be burnt during that riot?
I'm going to say 7. So that's my guess, Zach. Not because the Browns are improved or the Jets are bad, because you need the perfect confluence of events to make it the worst possible thing that could happen in Cleveland, and that's it. A Thursday night game with free beer. There you go.
I'm contractually obligated to not root against Sam Darnold. So if he's starting for the Jets, which it sounds like they're trying to trade Teddy Bridgewater.
Wow. Who could use Teddy Bridgewater? He's a good quarterback.
Browns.
Well, we already got Tyrod Taylor, man.
I know.
Yeah, they're committed to the TT.
Yeah. But I'd take Teddy Bridgewater. Don't get me wrong. You know what? Yeah. Let's bring in Teddy, let him back up Tyrod, and Baker Mayfield can sit in that stupid camper for the rest of the season.
I think the Jets might be better off just holding on to him for a second.
Yeah.
And seeing how teams fare in the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then saying hey, we gotta barely use Teddy Bridgewater over here.
I barely used Teddy Bridgewater.
Wow, you know where I'd like to see Teddy Bridgewater go seriously is Miami. I think would be a good match for him.
Oh, the Ryan Tannehill experience.
Yeah, that's not getting them anywhere. They need a real quarterback.
Ryan Tannehill. I think it's about time that we can all just say that the ship has sailed on Ryan Tannehill.
Right, exactly.
He's not terrible.
He's not terrible, but he's never gonna be the guy that Miami.
But the Jets are also going to trade him to the Dolphins.
Well, that's true. But he's like a low rent. Who's the guy I was trying to think of? Alex Smith. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Who else could
Alex
use him?
Smith, though, to his credit, Alex Smith.
The Cardinals. Teddy Bridgewater would be a good guy to set, be the Cardinals QB until Josh Rosen's ready.
He's not old or decrepit enough, all right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. They have Sam Bradford, who's ready to break, and then Josh Rosen is the incumbent.
Look, Sam Bradford is following in the tradition of elderly quarterbacks with diminished returns. You started off with, Kurt Warner, actual legit talent that had a few years left and managed to revive the franchise. Then he was replaced by Carson Palmer, who was, old and broken. Didn't have as much success as Kurt Warner, but not bad in his own right. And then once that was finally done, now it's Sam Bradford, who is never accomplished anything and breaks all the time. And so, look, the Cardinals have set themselves on a very clear path. They're going to go with old, washed-up quarterbacks, and each old washed-up quarterback will be less accomplished than the one who came before him.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, can we put Teddy Bridgewater in the old? He's not old and he's not really washed up, but
no, exactly. That's why he won't fit in the delicate system
right.
the Arizona Cardinals have crafted.
But he'd be a great fit for that team, though. I mean,
you know what's weird? I'm looking up and down the league right now. I don't know if there's a team that could actually use a quarterback right now.
I think the Cardinals could. I mean, Bradford.
But
you look at him wrong and he blows both of his ACLs. Come on.
Well, what I mean by that is that there's teams that either have entrenched guys,
right.
guys that they signed in the offseason, or guys that they drafted. So, could at first I said, the Vikings, and I'm like, oh wait, no, they're the ones who got Kirk Cousins at the end of the day.
Right.
Then it's like, maybe the Broncos. Well, the Broncos have who the Broncos? Case Keenum, right? And it's
hold on, right now, I'm not. No, if Teddy Bridgewater's available, I'm going to get him. Forget Case Keenum. I know what he did last year, but come on.
But the thing is, they spent money on him.
Well, that was their fault.
Right, but what I'm saying is, you either say to the guy that you brought in, hey, we're going to bring in this guy because you're not really doing it for us already, and that obviously isn't good confidence for sorry. Jeez, that came on strangely. I felt like I was in the middle of gonna have a seizure. That was a weird sneeze, man. I don't know what to do with that. And then I'm like, the Broncos can't. The Lions have a guy. The Buccaneers, I mean,
Jameis got suspended because he roped an Uber driver. So
right, maybe you throw him there. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. The Bears have Mitch, I love boobs, Trubisky.
Right.
The Titans, Marcus Mariota. Texans, Deshaun Watson.
Oh, I forgot. I was going to say the Texans, but I forgot they got Deshaun Watson coming back.
Falcons, Matt Ryan. Jaguars, Blake Bortles. Maybe
Bridgewater would be good in Jacksonville too.
Yeah.
Look, okay. Blake Bortles. I put him in the same boat as Casey Keenum, to be perfectly honest. If you got Teddy Bridgewater available, no, you don't pick.
Hey, Mike, who's lost more Super Bowls, Blake Bortles or Tom Brady? That's what I thought. Bortles fact.
Even Bortles fact, Mike.
I just remember at the end of that game after the Patriots came back, and it's like, oh well, you know what, Jacksonville, you lived by the Bortles, now you got to die by the Bortle. And
they died because didn't they just start going really conservative or something? Because they had them beat. I don't remember. We talked about it, and I remember that
I shared the picture of Jesus Brady after the comeback happened. Yeah.
But yeah, Bridgewater, I think really though, looking down the list, I think Miami would be Jacksonville too, but they're not. They're with Bortles taking them all the way to the AFC title game last year. They're not going to make any noise. But Miami, no. I think Miami gets really interesting with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean the two teams that could probably use them are maybe Miami, Buffalo, but Buffalo just drafted Josh Allen, and Miami's within the Jets division, so they're not.
Who's Buffalo? They're not going to name Allen as a starter. So who are they pretending is going to start the season right now?
Let me see.
Not Nathan Peterman, right?
Let's see who took the most snaps.
I forgot who else they had. Didn't they sign someone?
Oh, please be Peterman. Please have Peterman start.
Well,
Come on.
Nathan Peterman had a lot of Wait, can I just get a regular ass box score NFL.com for God's sake?
No, you know what? You know what the worst thing in sports are the league's websites.
Yeah.
MLB's isn't too bad, but the rest of them suck. The MLB sucks. It doesn't suck as much as everybody else's does.
I remember the NHL had a fun site. Those were the days.
The three quarterbacks the Bills played in their first game were Josh Allen, Nathan Peterman, and A.J. McCarron.
A.J. McCarron, I think, is going to be the starter, I think, is what I heard.
Oh, why?
Teddy Bridgewater's a great fit there, too, to sit in front of Allen for a year or two. Come on. Well, remember, the Browns were going to trade for A.J. McCarron last year, but they got too busy celebrating getting him and forgot to turn in the paperwork.
They didn't actually file the paperwork.
On. Mike, how can you not love a team that does shit like that? Come on. Tell me these guys, the absurdity of these guys is right up my alley. You know I love that kind of shit.
That's true. That is true. That's hard to root against.
Right.
Yeah, no, those are the three quarterbacks. So
I think Bridgewater to Buffalo would really work nice, I think.
Yeah, but again, also in the division.
Oh, true. Who's he with right now? The Jets. Oh, that's the Jets. They're stupid enough to do it.
also not wrong.
Come on.
Yeah, of the teams that could probably use a guy and that would fit into their system the same way, I think Tampa Bay, at least for those weeks that Jameis is
How long is Jameis out? 4 weeks?
4 weeks.
4 weeks, and to be perfectly honest, I'm over Jameis Winston.
I was just going to say, how much longer do we go with this experiment with him? I think that it's third or fourth year now?
Third or fourth year. Last year was supposed to be the year where he broke out, and they actually had better results when they had Fitzmagic in there.
Yeah, and then what was the other guy? Oh, that Mike Glennon too was like, yeah.
Oh, Mike Glennon. He's the new quarterback of the future for Chicago, isn't he?
I guess. I don't know. But he might be becoming the new Matt Flynn. You know, the well-paid backup that never has to do anything.
Well, Mike Flynn is the embodiment of the American dream.
Either him or that one dude.
Charlie Whitehurst.
Whitehurst, yeah.
Charlie Whitehurst had it the best.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I think, though, you're right, though, with Darnold. I think I hang on to Bridgewater for a little while longer. Just because
they have Zippo McCown.
Oh, they do have one of the McCowns.
Oh, wow. Well, don't they have him listed as like number one on the depth chart, Zeppo? Isn't he that's okay. Come on. Let's get serious about this now. You're not going to start Zeppo McCown over the number 3 draft pick in the NFL or 2 or whatever he was?
It's not even that. Like, the idea was that, he'll sit and learn and all that stuff. But then Darnold went out and is like, when you have a situation where if the guy you drafted is clearly the best quarterback on the team, sure, you want to have him sit and learn and et cetera, which is all well and good. But if he's so clearly outplaying everyone else, you don't think the veteran players on that team are like, hey, put the guy in that's going to help me win football games. I don't care about, saving him next year. I won't be here next year.
If you remember, we want to talk about Matt Flynn. Remember when Seattle signed him for all that money and he was going to be the guy? And they drafted this kid out of Wisconsin. We're going to let him sit behind Matt Flynn and learn. And Russell Wilson just outplayed him in training camp. He's been the starter ever since. And look what Seattle's done with that. They've been a dominant team since then. Maybe heading down the other side of the hill now, but to me, it's just idiotic. When you've got a guy that's clearly the best player sitting, it really is. It's way outdated
thinking.
Yeah, I agree.
We saw it with like Jeff Fisher, how he refused to start Jared Goff, and it's like, why? Like, what is the holdup here? And
because Case Keenum is going to lead us to the promised land,
and then he didn't.
Jeff Fisher didn't go fucking 6-9. He didn't.
No, he didn't. No, I don't know if there's ever been a more clear illustration of how bad a coach Jeff Fisher was until the Rams situation in Los Angeles, where McVay took essentially the same team. Let's be honest.
100%.
100. There was maybe, obviously no NFL roster turns over 100% from season to season, or doesn't turn over. But
But same basic
structure,
same
and
core.
Won 12 games and a playoff game, right? Yeah.
Well, they made it to the playoffs. Yeah, they lost to the Falcons because.
You just think you're like, God. I mean, how did? Well, Jeff Fisher's the Mike Keenan or one of the hockey coaches we talk about that John Tortorella that rides his one great season to a bunch of jobs. That's Jeff Fisher. One Super Bowl
He had
season.
one season where he lost the Super Bowl by a foot.
Yep.
And then went 8-8 for the rest of his career. Otherwise,
and had people believing he was a good coach.
Yeah.
I remember when the Browns would be looking for a coach again, and I'd go, man, Jeff Fisher wouldn't be a bad move. Jeff Fisher wouldn't be a bad move. Boy, am I glad they never made that move. Of course, then again, going 8-8 5 years in a row would beat the hell out of this, I'd imagine. Gentlemen, we have breaking news. The decision has come down in the Urban Meyer situation. And you want to take a guess before we
He's going to keep his job. He's going to keep because it's football and it's stupid, and he's going to keep his job.
Any kind of punishment?
He's going to miss a quarter. Which is what they do to all their players. Like, he stole a laptop. He's going to miss the first quarter.
Well, Zach, you're kind of right in the sense that that's basically it. He's not missing a quarter. He's been suspended for 3 games.
Okay.
And
what's Ohio State's first 3 games?
The Chicago Fighting Eyeballs from the Chicago Optical Institute and teams like that.
Hold on. Their first 3 games are
I think they might have one
Oregon
tough one
State,
in there. Yeah.
Oregon State at home, Rutgers at home. Big Ten opener for Ohio State.
Okay.
Rutgers.
And on the third game, they travel to TCU, who is ranked. So those are your 3. And then his first game back will be at home against the always tough, always give you a good game, the Tulane Wave.
God damn it.
And then we have the Infidelity Bowl with Ohio State and Penn State right after that. So
there we go. Yeah. Great.
Good stuff.
the bowl of college football shame.
Right.
Yeah, the Infraction Bowl.
I got to say,
again, the guy who just turned the other way while his players got free tattoos is hire him back. He got a raw deal. Compared to the
I'm
other
trying to find
bullshit that goes
confirmation
on.
here. My girlfriend told me she saw it on TV, but I'm not seeing anything here so far that.
Yeah, I'm gonna let me pull up Twitter.
Let's dig around a little bit, make sure we're correct here.
Twitter's usually pretty good about this. Yeah, here we go. Urban Meyer suspended for first 3 games of the season. And Gene Smith, does that ring a bell?
Yep. AD.
Suspended for 17 days.
Wow.
From Ohio State's news release, Urban Meyer and Gene Smith went too far in allowing Zach Smith to remain as an employee in the face of repeated misconduct.
I'm really disappointed in this. I mean, look, if you take everything out of it but the football, of course, this is great for Ohio State because they get to keep one of the best coaches in the game. But this is bullshit. This is utter bullshit. He should be fired. My understanding is that Zach Smith wasn't even fired until a couple months ago.
Right.
And allegations of this taking place went as far back as 2006. And by the way, YouTube guy, King Buckeye, that listened to us and said we were completely unqualified to talk about this. First off, go fuck yourself. And secondly, your name gives it away, dude. Urban Meyer, they could have had video of him raping a goat on the fucking, quad at Ohio State. You'd still want to keep him around. So spare me. But I don't know. I don't like this. A 3-game suspension, that's nothing. That's like Zach said. It's like missing the first quarter if you're one of the starting players. Please.
Especially in a college football season for a major program. Yes, you're playing power schools in Oregon State and Rutgers.
Sort of.
TCU, well, yeah, right. In name only. TCU is a tough one because it's a road game, and TCU's always been a tough program. But if Ohio State's talent is still Ohio State's talent, they should beat them walking away.
Well, and not only that, but let's just say for a second that they do lose to TCU. It's a loss in the 3rd game of the season. They've got plenty of time to make it up and still be in the playoff race at the end of the year, as long as they run the table from that point forward.
Yeah, right. With the way things are set up, this is hardly a punishment.
Yeah, and I just can't sit back and go, okay, this guy, and we can say, well, we don't know what he really knew or whatever, but how do you not know, I guess, is my thing. How do you not know about this? If you're the control freak coach that everybody paints him to be, how does he not know this is going on? That this guy's having trouble with his wife, that he's beating her and stuff. I just, there are two things to me that I just think are lines that you can't cross, and that's, fucking children and beating women. And now we've got two schools in the Big Ten that have done both. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
It's a case where, again, if Urban Meyer knew about this, my biggest question is, why didn't he go to the police?
Right.
And the fact that he didn't go to the police tells me that he valued his football program over doing what was right, and that ought to have resulted in his termination. So. Well,
it's the football culture. We talked about it on the last show that everything flows from the head coach down, and that they are so insulated from the real world that it doesn't seem weird to anybody involved in it. It looks crazy to us because we're not part of it, but if you're in the middle of all that, it seems perfectly normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here, I'm looking at the timeline here. Let's see. Okay. When was this dude fired? Oh, this is okay. Denies knowing of the incident, and then that's what kills me too. He said he didn't know about it, then he turns around and said, "Oh yeah, I did." I don't.
Right.
How do you spin that? Is any other way than saying, "Well, I lied to you the first time," or
he said he forgot.
I smoked some of the best weed.
He forgot.
Or I smoked the best weed you've ever heard of.
I misremembered. That is.
Do you remember the days of misremembered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find when he was actually.
Games. And the other part of it, the AD being suspended for 17 days. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Suspended from August 31st to September 16th. Big fucking deal.
I don't think he's going to sweat it.
Well, no, and something tells me he draws a big enough paycheck that it's, and that's another question too. Are these suspensions with or without pay? Not that it matters, especially in Urban Meyer's case.
Probably, I would hope without. But here's the deal with that. Like, so let's say, Urban Meyer's getting suspended for not telling them fast enough. Is that what this is?
Sounds like it. Like he didn't move quickly enough. Like kind of like what they're like the Paterno thing, where like, well, your problem is he just didn't move fast enough, or you said no. Right. My problem is that he knew that Jerry Sandusky was a fucking pedophile and did nothing about it. That's my problem.
So then the thing goes on to, okay, well, let's just say Urban did his job, and okay, you're going to get suspended 3 games for not doing that. If the next chain of command is Urban Meyer passing it on to the athletic director, and the athletic director didn't fire him immediately, how is 17 days an okay punishment for the athletic director?
Right. That's what I mean.
The one that's supposedly more in charge.
This is, what this tells me? This looks to me like an administration at a university that is so fucking either enamored with that football program or so fucking afraid of it and the reaction they would get from the fans and everybody else that
I'd say the latter.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to break it to him, but this Ohio State alum is I would have been fine with firing him.
I mean, this is what happens when college football gets as big as it gets.
Zach Smith was fired July 23rd of this year, guys. Like, not even a month
July
ago.
July 23rd.
Not even a month ago.
Yeah. And this was after, here's a timeline. First charge with felony assault, June 21st, 2009. 2015, his wife reports being followed by him, or she believes it was her soon-to-be ex-husband. She then reports threatening texts from her ex-husband. Felonious assault and domestic violence offenses filed against Zach Smith. Menacing by stalking offense filed November 9th. These are all 2015. Restraining order granted November 10th. Divorce filed. Okay. Courtney Smith was stopped for speeding, was visibly upset. Courtney told police she was having domestic issues with her ex. This was in January of 16.
Right.
On the 17th of December in 17, Smith is issued a trespass warning because he was caught looking through the windows of her home and her car and banging on her door at 1:30 a.m. How the fuck did this guy keep his job until a month ago? That's my first question. And secondly, it's just unbelievable to me. Wow. Oh, and they hired Brian Hartline to take his place. Okay, well, I guess that's important too. Fucking A.
So the other thing that came out about this, you know how much money Zach Smith was making as a wide receiver coach for Ohio State?
I'm going to guess
too much.
Mid six figures.
Too much.
$300,000.
Yeah.
300 grand.
Wide receivers coach at Ohio State.
300 grand, and Ohio State's a public university, meaning that came from the taxpayers.
Yeah. Yep. Just alumni donations, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you're right. And and this is the thing. He's had a long history of this. With filed or charges filed officially, not just rumors, not innuendo, not anything of the above. Literal, factual things had happened, and he kept his job for at least 9 years from the first time. Worked for Urban Meyer that entire time, 9 years, and they kept him around. How good of a receivers coach do you need to be? I mean, you know what I mean? The only wide receivers under Urban Meyer that I can think of are guys from Florida. Yeah. You think of any big Ohio State receivers that have made the NFL? There's been a couple recently. I can't think of their names, but yeah. I just don't get it. I don't get how good a coach he was, and it shouldn't even matter. It's like, how do you let him stick around?
Yeah.
And this is something I read too, that at one point Urban Meyer said to him, Zach, if I find out this stuff is true, it's going to be hell. You're going to, blah, blah, blah. Well, he never did anything that we can see. I mean, it's bullshit. So a 3-game suspension.
If he finds out hold on. If he finds out the stuff was true.
Yeah, I don't remember. I read it in an article somewhere. I can't remember, in the timeline where that actual conversation falls.
I'd be curious to know when that happened.
But yeah, and it's just it's ridiculous, Well, and all of this, he gets a 3-game suspension that is really utterly meaningless.
Not that people didn't have reasons to hate Ohio State previously, but here's add that onto the file.
We're going to call it a night, folks. We'll see you next time. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube. And you can find us on Facebook. See ya.
Later.